Sports Roundup right now.
Good Tuesday evening, everyone, and welcome into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show. Live on location in beautiful downtown Alexander City at JR Sports Bar and Grill. 256-329-2328 is the number for them, and they'll take care of any of your delivery needs, or you can come up here and get some of their delicious food off of their wonderful menu. Luke, we have a beautiful day outside, and couldn't be more excited about it. I know, especially in this area right now, you have a lot of City League baseball and softball getting ready to wrap up, a lot of league tournaments there, and this past weekend we had the chance to cover the Benjamin Russell scrimmage game, the Jamboree game. So I know we'll have the opportunity to dive into that. But Luke, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Did you get to go to the scrimmage?
I did not get to go, but I listened to it with Brett and Randy on Saturday, and then I had the opportunity to watch some of the new thing now is Huddle, obviously. So I've seen a lot of the game through that, and from all I've heard, the running game seems to be intact there for the Wildcats, and Tyree Gray had a pretty good game as well, manning things from the quarterback ship. So should be pretty interesting to see, especially this time of year. There's so much getting ready to wrap up. Spring practice obviously wraps up for colleges and high schools, but high school football, there's nothing like it, Luke.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of interesting spring games this past week, and we're going to have Josh Bean on Sports Blitz Live, I know, and around 7:24 tonight, to be very, very specific, actually. And he is from AL.com. He covers a lot of high school sports. I can't wait to ask him about spring games and how things went in Birmingham specifically, since he's based out of the Birmingham area. But you can learn a little bit in spring. It shouldn't tell you too much. That's the way I've always felt, that you learn more about the team in the practices leading up to the spring game. Sometimes coaches just want to see different situations. You may not know quite that much, and the game itself is all fluff to me usually, and it's the practices where you find out the most. But everybody loves football, and this is going to be our last chance to have any of it for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes these types of games so special, is the fact that, one, it gives you a chance to kind of learn some guys that you haven't known before, two, to see the progression level of some other guys that you're hoping can make that next step, and thirdly, it's that gap between, between the summer and the fall there. So it gives you a little go-between. But 2-0, the Wildcats defeat Muscle Shoals. And that is a team that I know a lot of people around the state have been wanting Benjamin Russell to get matched up with. They've been just as dominant in their region and their area play as Benjamin Russell has. Both great defensive teams, but 2-0 there. And so that kind of bodes well for your statement you were saying about teams don't really necessarily go out and try to pull a full game plan in or anything like that. I think they only had 2 15-minute quarters, and so that gave them a chance to kind of work on some things that they had been doing in the spring and get a look at some guys that they were hoping to see perform well. But somebody, again, that we heard a lot about was Kobe Maxwell, somebody that's expecting to be a main contributor for the Wildcats this season. I really like the guy, the way he runs. He got in some games last season toward the end of the season, toward the end of games, and he was really impressive. So I see that trend continuing this season as well.
Well, good news. You'll have Coach Horn here in just a little bit, Scott, and he'll be able to give you some firsthand accounts and thoughts on the spring game and spring overall and what's coming up for the fall.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that conversation. We actually I didn't realize how long Coach Horn had been around. This will be his 26th season, his 7th with the Wildcats. So it's been a up and down road a little bit there for him here, but he got things back on track, and I would love to get his take on how things are going. But we'll also have the opportunity to discuss some of the players as well. We have some members from the football team that will be up here joining us too. So a lot of action going on here on the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show. 256-234-6221 is the number to dial in, and we'll take care of any of your calls you have. Right now, what we'll do is go ahead and take our first break of the evening. More of the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, live on location from JR Sports Bar and Grill, right after this.
All teams need players that can fill.
1.
Welcome back into the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, presented to you each and every Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 by JR Sports Bar and Grill. As I said, Luke, we have a beautiful day outside. I know Brett and his team are competing for either a spot in the championship game or the championship game today, and I know that is a common theme around the area, especially in the baseball and softball side. So you'll get ready to gear up for all-star tournaments and district, and so I know that the kids will be very excited about that. But again, 256-234-6221 is the number to dial in here, and we'll take your calls.
62-1.
6221. There you go.
I was going to say you're going to make them guess at the other digit.
6221. But speaking of guessing, you did a nice job today. You wrote an article in the LMG Outlook today about some 2015 early bowl predictions, and so I always get a interesting feel for what you're thinking about certain teams, especially this early on. So we'll do a little different than what we normally do on this show content-wise. But first one we see there, we're looking at like a Birmingham Bowl. There's something that some of us around the area are interested in, South Carolina versus Temple.
Yeah, you know, the Birmingham Bowl is what it is. And for those people out there who hate bowl games, I think the Birmingham Bowl would be maybe Exhibit A. But I don't care. I mean, if Birmingham wants to have a bowl and they want to invite, and my prediction would be South Carolina versus Temple, I believe, then, you know, more power to them. That doesn't mean I have to watch it, and I probably wouldn't watch it. But, you know, if those two teams want to get together, and I think South Carolina's going to have some problems this year, and I think Temple's going to be okay. So, I mean, it's wild when you see some of these bowl games. I think if South Carolina were to find out they were going to that bowl game, they'd be like, oh, man. And if Temple finds out they're going to that bowl game, they'd be like, oh, yeah. You know, isn't that wild, the perspectives here?
Yeah, and I'm looking down the list here, and one that kind of fits LSU and Les Miles, and it just seems like he would enjoy going to this bowl, is the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, and you have them taking on Penn State, which Franklin has that program hopefully going in the right direction if you're him. Now no scholarship restrictions for that team, so he has a full allotment there. And, again, you're looking at LSU with a quarterback. If somebody steps up there, they're a team that could really surprise some people, but if not, they could have another year like they had this year where they're toward the middle of the pack of the SEC.
Well, what I loved about making up some of these is Penn State LSU is not only is it two traditional names, and I think now we're kind of over – I hate to say over what happened at Penn State, but it's a little more in the past now. We've changed regimes totally, and I feel like everybody's moved on from that. But it's probably the best NFL quarterback prospect in the country, and Christian Hackenberg, taking on the team that is – probably most known for putting NFL players in the pros for defensive back position. So you've got the best passer against the reputation of being the best group of defensive backs. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, and keeping on along this LSU theme, at what point does he start to get the Mark Richt treatment to where, you know, even though he does have Les Miles does have championships to his name, at what point do they start to say, you know what, it's got to start to happen again, because they're on the verge, as much talent as they have, they're on the verge of finishing 4th or 5th in the West again this season.
Could very well do it. I mean, that Auburn game early in the season is going to be pivotal for them and for Auburn, really, because if LSU loses that game, I could see the wheels coming off. I really could. I mean, they've got a team with some talent. They don't necessarily have the best quarterback situation in the world, but very few teams in the SEC are solidified at quarterback. And they do have Leonard Fournette, who could end up being the best running back in this conference, if not the country, by the time the season's over. And they do have some very stout defensive players, just like they always do. Their wide receiver position, it seems to be okay. It's going to be interesting, but you're right. When is he going to get the Mark Richt treatment? Because, okay, he won a national championship, but he did it with 2 losses. Number one, people forget that. I mean, he completely fell out of a well to get into the game. I mean, everything had to happen exactly right. Then he goes to another national championship game and is embarrassed by Alabama 21-0. So, and meanwhile, Richt hadn't had even the shot at a national championship game, but both of them seem to be kind of in the same boat. They're in a position where you certainly don't want to fire them. You don't even want to entertain the idea in a sense, but you may have hit the glass ceiling with both of them.
Yeah, and I see a couple more, and the one that I think everybody would like to see on this list, you have in the Taxslayer Bowl, Texas A&M versus Texas. I think everybody in Texas wants to see it. A lot of fans around the country want to see it, but I don't think that the two universities can come to an agreement on whether or not they should play it. And I don't know. I understand why they don't want to play it if you're Texas, probably. But this would, if Texas A&M and Texas were to play, and Texas A&M goes on the victory there, I think that automatic would just, they're already on the verge, I think, of probably passing Texas, but that would definitely put that argument to sleep.
It would certainly help with it. And you hear people about playing in-state rivals all the time, and would it help? Would it wouldn't help? And both teams can stand on their own without playing each other. But I think college football needs that game. I didn't realize how much I missed that game. At first, I didn't think I would care one way or the other. But I mean, this is a huge rivalry, and I miss it. I still miss Nebraska, Oklahoma from way back in the day, in the Big 8 days. I remember that one well. That used to be the only game the two teams had. I mean, the rest of it was the big 2 and the little 6, if you remember. But I missed the Texas A&M game, and I think it'd be a lot of fun, and I think it's good for college football for them to get together. And if they were to get together in the Tax Slayer Bowl, which is played in Texas, okay, that would be kind of the same way. It's almost like college football forcing them to play, which I would absolutely love. I think it would be a lot of fun, and Texas A&M I think would be down for it. I don't know that Texas would be, and I try to sympathize with Texas from time to time because they are one of the blue blood programs, and you know, Alabama's got the same attitude they have sometimes. Alabama's not quite as elitist as Texas. I don't know that anybody's as elitist as Texas, even Notre Dame. Would you? I mean, be honest.
Notre Dame is probably the most elitist.
Yeah, but Notre Dame's been taking down a pretty good peg. I mean, they had their nice little run, and then when Alabama embarrassed them in the national championship game, I think they realized, okay, we're not quite as close as we thought we were. But Texas still walk around like they own the place. I mean, and Notre Dame does have some calls in that. It's not like they have the Notre Dame channel. They got NBC. I mean, that's a big deal. So, I mean, that goes into a lot more homes than the Longhorn Network does. So, I don't know. To me, that would be a perfect bowl game if it could happen somehow.
Yeah, and the state of Texas, with those two programs, are in uncharted waters right now, both being guided by 2 African-American coaches. That's something that you don't see. So I think that's changing the guard of how things are being viewed in Texas. And from a recruiting standpoint, what those 2 individuals could do for the programs would be exponentially greater than what you could see probably somewhere else between those 2. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of Charlie Strong as well as Kevin Sumlin, probably more so of Kevin Sumlin. I really think that they have an opportunity with Kyle Allen this season. If Chavis's addition to the defensive staff can make the difference that I'm hoping that Muschamp has with Auburn, I think that you'll see those 2 teams along with Alabama competing for the #1 spot in the West.
Well, and for all the things that we talk about, race relations in the country, et cetera, I think it is fantastic that both Texas and Texas A&M have African-American coaches, and except for the fact that I just brought it up, we weren't even going to mention it. It's not a big deal anymore. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I agree exactly what you're saying, and I'm a big fan of those, as I said. So hopefully at some point we can get those 2 together. But, Luke, Coach Horn has just walked in the building, so what we'll do when we return from this break, we'll have Coach Horn up here to talk about the spring practice and the jamboree that just took place at Jackson State Saturday. More of the Late Morning Sports Roundup show coming to you right after this.
come back to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into the Lake Martin Sports Roundup show, presented to you each and every Tuesday by JR Sports Bar and Grill. About 20 minutes in, almost 40 minutes left in the show, and right now we want to welcome in a very special guest of the show, Danny Horn, head coach of the Benjamin Russell Wildcat football team. Coach Horn, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, Coach, before we talk about the game that just took place in Jamboree this past Saturday, you guys just wrapped up spring, so what was your overall impression of how the team looked this spring?
Well, at times I thought we got better, and other times, I don't know. Spring is a time where you experiment a lot on people playing different positions and trying to get, find some depth, and you move people around and try to get the best players at what they can do, and we did move a lot of people around this spring, and after the spring, when we got home from the spring game, we coaches sat and we watched the film and graded it, and then we had a lot of personnel, discussions, and we still got some areas that we need to get more depth at, and we're probably going to move some people around, but overall I thought it went well. We've got some people I think that can play. As always, you need a little bit more depth, but, overall, I thought it went well.
Well, as we said, you guys took on most of the shows this past weekend at the Jacksonville State Stadium there, and you guys, I had the culmination, rather, of how the spring went. So you can talk a little bit how that game went, some takeaways, and what were you impressed with?
Well, going into it, be honest about it, we don't really prepare for a fall or spring jamboree, even a fall jamboree, because we just, we practice against each other, and we took one day to kind of go over a little bit what they did, but it's hard to analyze since we really didn't put a lot of effort in preparing for them. We just kind of played what we saw there, and they're pretty. I mean, obviously they're a good team. They played for a state championship 2 years ago, and I know the coach there, and he's done a really good job there. He coached against I coached against him in a state championship game one time, and they always going to play good defense, they're a pretty hard team to prepare for defensively, because they run out of the gun, but they run a lot of wing tee stuff, a lot of motions, and a lot of buck sweeps and jet sweeps, and things that really motion wise, we didn't adjust a lot of times to the correct motion, and then a lot of times we didn't adjust to the correct formation. But overall, I was just glad to see the players get to practice against somebody else, and the effort was great. I thought we gave great effort, and offensively, I know the score was it was 2-0, but in my mind it was 0-0 basically. But both teams actually moved the ball in the first quarter, and we drove, and very first time we had it, and we turned the ball over. Then I think the next time we had it, we drove and missed a field goal, and they drove it one time and missed a field goal, and they actually scored one time and had it called back by a penalty. And so both teams actually moved the ball fairly well the first quarter, and then the second quarter we started playing a little, some of our second teamers and all, but. Overall, I thought it was a great venue. I thought Jacksonville State did a great job of hosting it, and you had a lot of teams come in, and there was a lot of scouts there, and I've I already got several that's called me since that game, and I was interested in knowing something about some of our players. So overall, I thought it was a great night.
Well, the talk of the town has been running back to Kobe Maxwell, who appears to be poised for a breakout campaign. Can you talk a little bit about him?
Well, no, Kobe, he's worked extremely hard in the weight room. He's gotten a lot bigger. Last year he probably weighed about 175, and this year he weighs about 190. And, I asked him the other day, he broke one the other night and got dragged down. And, I asked him when he came sideline, I said, I thought you had speed. And he said, I thought I did too. But, I guess there's some a little bit faster. But, he's got great balance, great quickness, and he's got good speed too. And he's just a, very powerful runner. And I noticed that, last year was just 10th grader. And as the year went on, he got a little bit more playing time. And right now, Chase Burton was our main back last year, but we're having to play him a lot more on defense, and I'm trying to strengthen the defense a little bit more, and I'm getting a little bit more depth there. And of course, Chase, he'll still run the ball some there, but Nakobe's done a really good job this spring.
We're here with Danny Horn, head coach of the Benjamin Russell Wildcats here in Alexander City, and Coach, Tyree Gray, your starting quarterback, enters year 2 as a starter. What are the expectations for him this season?
Well, he got better and better as the year went on last year. He was kind of unsure of himself at the beginning, but as the year went on, he got more confidence, and he made a lot better reads, and that just goes with experience. And I'm expecting big things from Tyree. He's a winner, and he's going to do all he can to get better, and he's going to do all he can to help the team win. And I thought the other night, and I discussed it with him, he missed a couple of reads, but, after 8 or 9 days of practice, you're going to make some bad reads. But, I'm expecting him to be a great leader and a great player for us. And, we got several coming back this year that's played a good bit. And, we lost some good seniors, but, you just got to turn the next page and get ready for the upcoming people, and I think that this group we got coming up is they all played good bit. Some of them, not all of them, but I think we got several good ball players that can play, and hopefully he'll carry over to the ball games.
Yeah, and Coach, as you say, you lost some quality talent from last year's team, both Sturdivant boys and somebody like Pac-Man Norris and Hugh Johnson. So a lot of star power there. But who are some names that fans can look forward to stepping in and being some main contributors for this year's team?
Well, we got Daniel Blaine and Anthony Parker back on the left side right there, and we got Carter Jones stepping up, at center, and Anthony's at 320, and Daniel's at 280, and Jones is at about 300. So, that's some beef on that side of the line. It's funny. Somebody was telling me, said the left side looks a lot heavier than the right side, and it is. But, we got some others that will step up there on the line. And, we lost all of our receivers. And so we got to replace them. And then on defense, we lost all of our linebackers. But, I think we got some quality people. We moved in the spring Trey Edwards to linebacker, and he was a very good defensive lineman, and he'll probably end up playing a little bit of both. But just for depth wise, we wanted him work in the spring to get used to doing some there, and we got, I thought Jacoby Lawson had a very good spring, and he the other day he missed some reads there at linebacker, but he's had a good spring. And Ben Hendricks, he's a 10th grade, going to be a 10th grader. I thought he had a good spring. So we got several linebackers coming on, and AJ's still hurt, but he'll be back in the fall. And him and Sean both has worked extremely hard. Miss Deborah and Marty, our other trainer, they've worked them really hard to get better, and they've worked and I expect them to be full speed and ready to go. So, those two didn't play. So, in secondary, we got, Rodney Carroll back for, the second year. And we got Timmy Lawson, at one corner, and, Tyree could play if we need him, which, he will. And because he's a very good defensive back. But, we got, several. Jacob Rogers at safety, he played a little bit last year coming on. And so we got several players back. Tay Robinson, our nose guard, which he's been a 3-year starter. And, we're expecting big things from him. And so, we've got the pieces in place. We just got to have some others step up and fill in there and establish a little depth. And, then hopefully we'll be all right.
Yeah, and Coach, only a couple more questions for you, but this will be your 7th season here in Alex City with the Wildcats, and I just want to get your point of view of I guess how proud of you are of the progress and the success that you've had from year one to now.
Well, it's been great. The people's been, you know, I've been blessed. You know, the good Lord put me here for a reason. And you know, those first 2 years, I didn't really understand what it was. But you know, sometimes you got to go through hard times to enjoy the good times. And these last couple of years, it's really been fun. You know, we got a program where we need it, and you know, we just need to take that next step and go deep in the playoffs, and you know, hopefully, you know, one day play for a state championship. And you know, people don't understand how hard it is to win a state championship. You know, much less play for one, and especially, you know, moving up to 6A. But you know, I thought last year, and I've told this to many people, that you know, last year's team probably is the biggest surprise of any team I've ever coached, because you know, we lost a lot of key people, and we moved up to 6A and was playing a lot bigger schools, and we actually came out and played extremely well, and you know, won our 10th, you know, another 10-win season, and you know, that's hard to come by, and so the progress is there, and I just hope we can continue making, you know, bigger steps in the playoffs. And you know, we made it to the second, third round, but you know, we just, you know, hadn't been able to get past that. But you know, a lot of times you got to give the other team credit. You know, we played some really good teams in the playoffs that beat us. You know, Spanish Fort went on to win it 2 of the 3 years, and so you know, it's tough, but you know, I think the players understand that they want to make it take another step farther.
Yes, sir. Well, more than 25 years of coaching, 265 victories, several state championships. I was just trying to do some history today on you. Can you ever envision a scenario where you aren't coaching?
Well, no, I really can't. You know, my wife says I can't do nothing else. I can't. I don't know anything about anything else, and she's right. You know, I've been blessed that you know, I've been in this 31 years, and 26 as a head football coach. But what people don't realize is that 30 out of 31 years I've been a head coach in another sport, you know, whether basketball or baseball. So, you know, every year except for my very first year, I've been a head coach in a sport. So, but it's you know, like I said, the good Lord's blessed me with good health, and He's blessed me with great coaches. I'm telling you, I can't emphasize the job that my assistants do, and not only here, but when I was at Clay County, I've been blessed to have great coaches, and I've been blessed to have great players, and you know, I'm always a lot better coach if I got better players. And I guess every coach is, but it's you know, I've enjoyed my stay here, and you know, I don't know how many more years I got, but you know, I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got left.
Yes, sir. Well, that's Danny Horn, head coach of the Ventura Russell Wildcats here in Alexander City. And, Coach, again, congratulations on a good spring. We look forward to following you guys throughout the summer and into fall practice. We'll go ahead and take another break, and we'll return. Luke and I will do one segment, and then we'll have some members of the Ventura Russell football team up here. More of the Late Morning Sports Roundup Show presented to you by JR Sports Bar and Grill right after this. Welcome back into the Sportsfoot's Late March Sports Roundup show, live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. 256-329-2328 is the number to dial in for them, and they'll take care of any of your delivery needs. And you can come up here, as I said, and get some of their beautiful food. Some of their beautiful food, and also have the chance if you bring your kids in their uniform, practice uniform, or game uniform. It's $3.99 off the kids menu. But we just had a great segment with head coach of the Benjamin Russell Wildcats here in Alex City, Coach Danny Horn. And so right now what we'll do is welcome in a couple members of the defensive side who are expected to be main contributors for this year's team, Trey Edwards and Tay Robinson. So, guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and so, Tay, we'll start with you since you're to my right. Can you just talk a little bit about how your spring went and how the team did as a whole?
The spring, it went pretty good. 2-0, we could have did a lot better, but overall, we did pretty good.
Yeah, and so, coming in, you're junior, senior this season. You've been a senior this season?
Yes, sir.
All right, two-time state player there for you. So what are your expectations, not only from a team perspective, but from an individual's goal as well?
As always, it's set high, trying to win it all.
Trying to win it all. And so you, Trey, we'll talk a little about you. You had a fantastic season as well last season. So before we talk about your expectations, how did the spring go for you?
I feel as if we had a pretty good spring. We still got young players coming into the new positions and everything, but I feel like we had a pretty good spring.
Yeah, and when you're talking about having some new additions there, as Coach Horn and I spoke, did lose a few players off the defense, the Sturtevant twins, and you have Q and Pac-Man as well leaving the team. But what role do you see yourself playing in making sure that the defense is as good as it needs to be?
Well, for me, I played defensive end last year. This is my first year playing linebacker, but I feel like if the coach tell me something, do something, it's for the team. So it was a big move for me, but I'm still learning. I feel like I did okay in the spring game. I still got a lot to learn during the summer, but I feel as we had a good spring game, 2-0. We could have been better, but we'll get there.
And tell you, for you, somebody who's put up so much numbers and somebody we love watching. I think last season we had maybe a 6 or 7 game stretch where the opening play of the game was a tackle for loss for you. So I know you live behind back in the backfield, but what do you think you need to do to make sure, as I said, that the defense is as good as it can possibly be?
For me, stay explosive, stay low, try to get to the ball every play.
Yeah, and so what's the summer expectations like? What I know you guys have been through it with Coach Horn now for several years now. So what's the summer workout routine like with him?
First starting off, we're gonna be running, then lifting weights, then we're gonna start into a tour days, but that come a little later on.
So again, anything else you like to talk about the spring? Anything you saw in particular that you guys need to work on, and some things you thought were good coming out of the spring?
I feel for me, this is my last year playing football. Going in as seniors, I know for all the other seniors, they want this to be the best year. This, like Coach Horn always tell us, this gonna be the season we remember the most. So I feel as if we need to go out there, run our best, lift weights to the max, and do everything to our best ability that we can, and have a pretty good season this year. Going into our senior year.
Absolutely. Well, again, that's Trey Edwards and Tay Robinson, members of the defensive side of the ball for the Wildcats. And, again, that'll be a mainstay for the Wildcats to be successful, as it always has been, playing good defense. And so when we return from this next break, we'll bring up some members of the offensive side of the ball and get them to do a little talking as well. More of the Late March Sports Roundup show, live on location from JR Sports Bar and Grill, right after this.
2, 1.
Well, welcome back into the Lake Martin Sports Roundup show. About 15 minutes left here in today's show, and we've had a very, very packed and action-packed show. We had the opportunity to talk to Coach Danny Horn as well as members of the defensive side of the ball for the Benjamin Russell Wildcats. And right now we'll move over to the offensive side of the ball. I want to welcome in Tyree Gray and Kobe Maxwell, members of the Benjamin Russell Wildcat football team. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, well, Tyree, we'll start with you. I was talking with Coach Horn. You know, it's your second season now. As a starting quarterback, what are the expectations you have for yourself going into this season?
I think I'm had to become a better passer to lead the team more. But I got high expectations for myself.
Yeah, and even though you, as you say, you maybe do need to work a little bit on the passing side, but what made you the most deadly and most lethal last season was your legs and your ability to run. So how do you think that'll help you, though, going forward, even if you aren't having the best game passing-wise, being able to use your speed to gain an advantage?
I think it's an advantage because not a lot of defense players as fast as I am, so I use that to an advantage.
Yeah. Well, you know, you guys just completed your spring. You had your spring game this past Saturday, 2-0. So obviously you probably weren't doing too much from a game plan wise. But can you talk a little bit about how the spring went and what your overall thoughts of this past Saturday was?
I think spring went pretty good, but for the spring game, of course we wanted to score, but we moved the ball. We just couldn't finish the drive. But
yeah, and again, you know, last season, Coach Horn talked about it. This was a team that, I guess from a perception-wise, overachieved a little bit, especially losing as much talent as it did and then having a first-year starter, but made it the third straight season where you guys won at least 10 games and won the region as well, making it to the second round of the playoffs. So what are your thoughts on going forward after having the type of season you had last season? Do you feel any added pressure going into this year?
Yeah, I think people got more high expectations of our team because 3 years winning 10 games, I think they're gonna expect the same thing. But even we want to go farther though. We don't want to get put out in the second, third round. We want to, keep it going.
I got you. And so we'll move over to Kobe Maxwell, who, as I said, with Coach Horn, has been the talk of the town. Really had a good spring and an even better spring game, although he didn't get in the end zone. But Kobe, can you talk a little bit about how your spring went?
My spring went pretty good, but I think I need to work on my condition and start conditioning more, getting in shape.
Yeah,
other than that, it's pretty good.
And as we talked about, you were a player who got some action toward the end of the season, especially once it got closer to playoff time, and got some meaningful carries there. So now you'll be getting a lot of the workload along with Chase Burton. So do you feel what are your expectation levels, I guess, for what you want to achieve this season?
I'm just really trying to work on my 40 time, get it down, trying to make sure I know the playbook like the back of my head. I'm really just mainly trying to get that 40 time down.
Where are you right now?
4, 5, 6.
Faster than me. But Tyreek, and again, talking about the speed side, you do play a little bit on the defense as well. Do you prefer offense or defense?
I
don't want to get you in trouble now. So,
I like them both, but I'm more needed at on the offense end. But for the future, I'm probably playing in the secondary in college. So
yeah,
the passing situations, I'll be on at cornerback this year instead of safety.
Okay. Do you like that a little bit better? How do you think that'll help you?
Cornerback?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more action than that cornerback because safety, just they are got all the tackles already, so you just sitting back there.
Well, last season, headed into it, and pretty much after the spring, we kind of had an idea, but really didn't know until the end, getting ready to lead up to the games, that you would be the starter and maintain that throughout the season. Obviously, you gained the trust of your teammates, and that helped with your leadership role. But now, as a senior, as a starting quarterback, not having to worry about a quarterback battle, do you feel now officially like this is your team?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah, and what's your leadership role like? Or style rather? Are you somebody who does a lot of hoorah and yelling, or you just kind of lead by example?
Yeah, I just like try to do I tell them, but I don't like yelling and all that type. I just try to do it by example.
Yeah, and again, you guys 2-0 against Jackson State. Didn't really score like you wanted to, but you got to implement some things. Is there anything offensively a little different than last season, or you pretty much run the same scheme?
About the same scheme. We ain't got that deep ball threat, we had, but we got more speed at the receiver end. Sean coming back, we got Cole and a little Buck. But we should be pretty good with a good running game, and we'll be more versatile.
I got you. Well, that is Tyree Gray and Kobe Maxwell, offensive members. As a little defensive side for the Benjamin Russell Wildcats, and they just completed their spring and had their spring game 2-0 over Jacksonville State. So, guys, again, we appreciate you guys coming up here. Good luck this summer and on to the fall.
All right, thanks.
We're going to take our last break of the evening, and when we return, we'll wrap things up. More of the Lake Martin Sports Roundup show coming to you right after this.
With all the bad news about the economy over the
Four, three, two, one.
Welcome back to the final segment here. JR Sports Farm Grill, as we are doing the Lake Martin Sports Roundup show as we do each and every Tuesday from 6 to 7. And again, this is a show that is designed for local area athletes, whether it be City League sports or, as we had tonight, high school sports. And it's not limited to just people in the Alexander City area. We're trying to do our best to branch out and include members, as we have from the Dadeville area, as well as a new site, Horseshoe Bend high school area, high school team as well. So again, if you have anybody that you would like to highlight or any events that you would like to highlight, just contact us through our social media outlets, or you can contact Justin Clayton, who does a tremendous job of setting up all the guests. And speaking of guests, we did, as we talked about earlier, we had some very great guests on this Tuesday show. We had the opportunity to discuss the spring and how things went all spring game related with Coach Danny Horn, and really got some good insight into what it takes to be as successful as he is. And so taking it from year 1 to now year 7, I've been a part of this whole transition process, and I watched him when it was 1-9 and 1-9, and how hard it was for us to get attendance there, and how it was hard to get people to realize that this was going to be great if they stuck with it. So again, I'm really appreciative to have somebody like Coach Horn in the area who's done so much for us, and we're hoping for great things in the future with him as well. And we also had the chance to talk to Trey Edwards and Tay Robinson, members of the defensive side of the ball for the Wildcats, who are expected to be mainstays there for the team to be successful, are both seniors. Again, Tay is somebody who's been a 2-time state finalist for him as well, so he's had his recognition rewarded, or he's been rewarded and recognized by his great play. And Trey Edwards is somebody who played on the defensive line last season, playing defensive end, will be moved up to play linebacker because we do lose some depth there at the inside linebacker spot, losing Scott and Sam Sturdivant in the middle. But it will be interesting to see how things play out with him. And on the offensive side of the ball, Nakobe Maxwell, Tyree Gray. Nakobe was somebody who we thought the world of coming into last season, coming into some of the last games toward the end of last season. He got in and got a lot of playing time, kind of spelled Chase Burton, who was a workhorse along with Tyreek Norris. But Nakobe gives you a little different burst of speed there that we're normally not used to seeing. We haven't had this type of back, I'd probably say, since Quez Alves, who has that breakaway speed. So if he's anything like him, I think the Wildcat faithful will be very proud. And Tyree Gray, what can you say about him already? Probably a 4.3, 4.4 guy, and somebody who from the quarterback spot is now in year 2. And I think that he has a chance to really do some things and make sure that this team is as successful as it should be. And I can see this being another team that makes a deep run into the playoffs. Hopefully we can get over that hump, made it to the 3rd round, as Coach Horn said. And, again, this is his 7th season, so I know he would love to get over the hump and hopefully make it to the state championship game, either in Auburn, Alabama, or in Tuscaloosa. But, again, this is the Late March Sports Roundup show, and we appreciate you guys listening. And that'll take us up to the end of the show. So for Justin Clayton in the back, my producer, my co-host Luke Robinson, I'm saying thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.